A mother blames Uber's lack of training for her son's death. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and it is very well known that Uber does not do a very good job in training their drivers for pretty much anything. It's like the way that I was trained on Uber was I watched a 3.5-minute orientation video clip on Uber's website and then was told you're ready to drive, go drive, and the first month of figuring out the ins and outs of being an Uber driver were definitely, how should I say, experimental at best. When I had, questions about things, I turned to YouTube, and with the exception of Uberman, there was no UberTuber community. That he was pretty much it, and he didn't cover every topic, and I shouldn't have had to be going to Uberman for advice on what to do with driving. Years later, it hasn't changed that much. I think the orientation video is a little bit longer. You might even watch an extra video or two, but it hasn't changed that much. And in fact, I even found out quite offensively recently by talking to someone that Uber even has 2 different help sections on their website. They have a section for Uber drivers and a section for Uber Pro drivers that is a lot more nuanced in what you need to do as an Uber driver and what things mean. And that's not fair in my opinion. But of course it's Uber, they're never fair. And now we're going to talk about this story that came up on The Star. And here's what's different about this story, it should be noted. This is an opinion piece. This is not a news article. And the things that she says might not be factually accurate at all. But we're going to talk about it because this is her feelings. But we just need to make it clear, whatever claims in this article are not necessarily legal claims made against Uber. So anyway, the title is "My Son's Death is Proof Uber Drivers Need Training." In 2016, Toronto City Council voted to eliminate the driver's training that had long been a requirement for licensing taxis and limousine drivers in this town. It is time to bring it back. At the time, Council was simply trying to regulate ride-hailing companies, specifically Uber, which had been operating illegally in the city. The city's Municipal Licensing and Standards Committee had recommended extending mandatory safety training to rideshare drivers. Mayor John Tory had enough pledge votes to get that legislation through. By the way, this is her son. And it says here, Nicholas Cameron was killed last March while a passenger in an Uber car on the Gardiner Expressway while traveling to the airport with his girlfriend. Cameron's mother, Cheryl Hawkes, is advocating for better regulation, sorry about that, folks, and mandatory driver training for all ride-hailing companies. But Uber didn't want safety training. Which, you know what, here's the thing, that might be her opinion, but it is also my opinion. Now, Uber might say, well, no, legally this is what we demand. It's not that we don't want safety training, but it's like, you know what, if you don't want to do the right thing, you don't want to do the right thing. And having already bullied its way into the Toronto market, Uber was prepared to bully some more, pulling safety standards down rather than stepping up. Uber, it seemed, had the mayor's ear. Literally overnight, after a bloody bit of backroom lobbying, votes were scrapped together from the mayor's allies on council. Progressive councillors were told to take a hike, and training was eliminated for everyone. The response was immediate. The day the new bylaw passed, long lines of wannabe cab drivers snaked outside the MLS offices at City Hall to buy their free $130 taxi license. The line included people who had previously failed the mandatory taxi course, taking advantage of the mayor's no training bylaw. Which, here's the thing. Here's why, one of the reasons why you know that this is about money. Because no company who would want a good employee would ever turn down training. They want you to do the job properly. But in Uber's world, since they're not paying for the drivers, they're really not when you get down to it. The passengers are paying for the drivers. They really don't care if the drivers are quality. If people complain about them, we'll just get rid of them. There's how many employees around. When you don't have to invest in the drivers, then you don't care about the quality of the drivers or the employees or whatever. Council had lowered the standards according to the Uber playbook. Instead of raising them in the interest of the public, it was elected to serve. And it remains that way today, pending a revision of the bylaw expected later this year. The spectacular, almost criminal folly of this retreat was played out on the Gardiner Expressway last March 21st when my 28-year-old son 23-year-old son, Nicholas Cameron, was killed in the backseat of an Uber vehicle while traveling to Pearson Airport with his girlfriend. The 23-year-old Uber driver didn't know how to get to the airport, driving east at first from Parkdale, then west. He was tentative behind the wheel, especially on the highway, and when his phone dropped to the floor, he pulled his car over to a stop, partially in a live lane of traffic. Then, without looking, he angled his car, backed into traffic directly into the path of an oncoming BMW. Oh. See, and that's bad driving. That is truly bad driving. But here's the thing. When you don't drive professionally it's one thing if you want to drive like a terrible person on your own free time. I mean, it's still bad because you are endangering other people in general. But if you want to do it in your own spare time, that's one thing. But when you are supposed to be a professional driver, when you have other people's lives in your car, you need to know what to do. And when the phone falls, you don't pick it up. You find a parking lot, you park, you pick it up, you secure it, and then you get back on the road. You do it safely. In fact, one of the first times I took this was a Lyft ride. And I had been doing Uber and Lyft for a little bit already. I got into the car, this guy picked me up. He had like 4.1 stars or something like that. And he told me he had just started that day. And I figured out very quickly why he had low stars, because he was driving me home, and granted it was like less than a mile, but he was driving me home and he was holding his phone in his hand while he drove. I got to the end, I said, okay, look, just to let you know, I'm going to give you 5 stars because I know you're new at this, but I'm going to give you some free advice right now. I would turn the app off right now, go by and get a stand or something, because your star grade is offensively low. And it's primarily because you are holding your phone. You are a nice guy and you are a good driver, but driving with the phone in your hand is very, very unsafe. So my advice is to turn off the app, buy the stand now, whatever to hold the phone for you that you can just look at it and drive. And when you say you didn't have the money, it's like, well, then stop driving until you get the money. You don't want to keep doing this. Now, I don't know if he actually listened to my advice, but, you know, the thing is, I assume like if there had been some training where it's like, by the way, never hold your phone, because that should be like one of the main things you don't do, but they don't have that. So drivers are left to guess. Let's continue. The coroner told us Nick was killed instantly in that crash, his neck broken. Recently, the driver had his license suspended for 1 year and was fined $1,000. He left the courthouse beaming from ear to ear and climbed into his brother's car, which bore an Uber sticker. While emergency workers were still prying Nick out of the wreckage, a computer-generated email from Uber landed in his inbox asking him to rate his driver experience, 5 stars or 1, and suggesting he add a tip. Okay, I know this is Canada now because they don't recommend you add tips in America, at least as far as I'm concerned. The email would be the only time Uber initiated official contact with anyone in our family in the wake of Nick's death. A day or two later, when the seriousness of the situation had sunk in, the driver was cut off from the Uber app and Nick's usage history was erased. That's it. Wow. See, Uber was definitely trying to cover this. Now, this is my opinion. This is not her opinion. She just stated Nick's usage history was erased. Maybe this has become a news story. I don't know. You see, this is why I like reading the articles organically, because you find out things like this. It's like Uber was actually trying to cover this up. It sure seems like Uber was trying to cover it up. I don't know. Does this seem like Uber's not trying to cover it up? This is, wow. Wow, how low will this company stoop sometimes? I swear. Uber says it cares deeply about safety. I'm sure they do. It is only prepared to go so far, however, to ensure it for you and me and the people we love. Last year, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi came to Toronto to announce a $200 million investment by Uber in self-driving car research here over 5 years. At the same time, Uber was in talks to acquire its largest competitor in the Middle East, Careem, for $2 to $2.5 billion. U.S. ride-sharing, for now, remains at the heart of Uber's business. Don't get distracted by the flying taxis and e-scooters. And by the way, let's just point out, because I don't think she does, at least I don't know, I haven't finished this article, obviously, but One of the reasons they're investing so much into the flying car is that it's safer. It's like, we're investing into safety. No, no, no. You're investing in an idea. You want to invest in safety? Train the drivers. Train the drivers. Wow. The day of Karashahi's visit, a documentary crew from the CBC's The Fifth Estate followed up on a long-standing request for 5 minutes of the CEO's time to sit down and talk about safety in the wake of Nick's death. They were left to chase after him, calling out their questions, only to have doors literally shut in their face. No one from Uber would talk to them. Well, in all fairness, seeing how they handled like the woman getting struck and killed in Tempe, Arizona, that doesn't surprise me. The same day, Karashahi agreed to give me a few minutes of his time alone. I had approached Uber late the previous night, identified myself, and asked for some FaceTime since I already planned on attending his speech to the Toronto Board of Trade. His sympathy, as the father of four, was genuine, but he visibly clenched on the question of driver training and questioned whether taxi and rideshare drivers really need training. I'm sorry, I'm actually getting really pissed at this. I'm going to change the title of the video. I was just going to give this a generic title. I am definitely changing the title of this. In December, Toronto City Council, in a unanimous vote, called for the reinstatement of safety training to be applied equally to rideshare, taxi, and limo drivers. But at a media briefing on January 28th to announce Uber's 2019 plans for Canada, the topic of safety training had to be raised by questioning reporters in the room, not Uber. Uber Canada General Manager Rob Kazam said no one cares more about the safety than Uber, clearly, but warned there will be consequences. Oh my gosh, there's going to be consequences for being safe. And what consequences could there possibly be? More expensive rides, fewer drivers signing on if the company is frog marched by the city into mandatory driver safety training for its drivers. Uber is still having trouble finding the even playing field. Oh my gosh. If safety is your number one priority, then you just do it. It's not your number one priority if it's like, hey, we care an awful lot about it, but if it's going to cost people more money and thus lose us business, we don't care that much about it. You know what? Okay, mom, dad, I'm sorry. I'm going to sorry right now, but Uber, you guys are a bunch of bastards. Seriously, bastards, all of you. As for what kind of training council should be looking at, there are choices. Forgive the plumbing, sorry. Taxi drivers were once required to take a 17-day course, which surprisingly did not include any in-car testing. Training for limousine drivers ran 5 days. Well, good for them. My training lasted 3.5 minutes. Centennial College, the largest transportation training facility in Canada, currently offers Taxi 100, a 25-hour course for taxi drivers, which includes mapping, customer service, and sensitivity training, and a full day of in-car defensive training. Sounds good. Fail the in-car portion and you fail the entire course. Makes perfect sense. Driving skills are critical. Centennial's part-time studies department says it could easily design an effective driver safety course tailored for Toronto's for-hire drivers in consultation with the city. Of course, any course council approves must include defensive driving and cannot rely exclusively on online instruction. The city also must take control of the issue and annual renewal of more than 70,000 private transportation company driver permits currently in circulation. Renewals must hinge on proof of safety training. Makes sense. Currently, the ride-share companies handle all the necessary paperwork and just send in renewal fees on behalf of drivers year after year. They also decide who to contact to their security checks, while taxi and limo drivers in Toronto are vetted by our police. That must also be addressed. In the 10 months since Nick's death, our family has received a lot of support from every quarter in our quest for driver training, except from Uber itself, because again, higher fares. I mean, sure, I think most, what this kind of reminds me of? This kind of reminds me of when Papa John Schnattner, and yeah, I'm using him, but bear with me. When Obama was trying to push through Obamacare, and Papa John was actually one of the biggest objectors to that. And here's the thing. I'm not going to say he had no reason to be. There were some legitimate concerns about Obamacare. There are still legitimate concerns about Obamacare. But he made a very, very piss poor case for why Obamacare should not be a thing. Because he stated that, hey, you know what? If we have, if the companies have to start doing this, then customers might be having to pay as much as 47 cents extra per pizza. Which, from my mind, it's like, you know what? Hey, is that it? Heck, I will gladly pay $2 more for pizza if you can figure out universal health care and do it in a way that doesn't tax me to death. Well, you know what? I think most people would say, hey, I have a $5 Uber ride, but I'd gladly pay $6 or $7. Heck, I'd probably even pay $8 if it would be safety. What if it's $10? Hey, your drivers are going to be trained now, so they're going to be safe. I think people would definitely invest in that, but they don't want to. We feel what happened to Nick was a textbook case of everything that could go wrong for any rideshare passenger. Yes, it was. We can gauge the true measure of Uber's engagement in safety as evidenced by Uber's continuous generation of innovative ideas related to transportation, none of which include training the people behind the wheel. None. It is not at the heart of everything we do, as Kuroshahi proclaimed in the ads released just weeks after Nick's death. Nor is Uber working hard to become synonymous with safety. Uber is using safety as window dressing. I agree. Making money and attracting investors for an upcoming IPO is at the heart of everything it does, and the Nicholas Camerons of the world, the Arizona pedestrian mowed down by a self-driving car, the thousands of sexual assault victims, and the ordinary passengers with tales of harrowing rides with directionally challenged ride-share drivers are mere roadkill on the highway to transportation dominance. I agree. When Uber asks us to imagine the possibilities, I personally get shivers up my spine. Every day of my life, I live with what could go wrong when safety is weighed against profitability. And here's the thing, it's not just the passengers in the car. He crashed into a BMW. That is putting the BMW driver at risk. You know what? Here's the thing. A lot of this is opinion. We don't know for certain what Uber's plans are in their safety department. They say it's very important to them, and I guess we just have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt at some point. But I don't see a lot of people. In fact, people still send me emails like, this happened, someone said this, or someone nicked me, what do I do? And usually Uber directors are kind of like, oh, well, you're not a safe driver. Well, you're not training them. And they never will train you. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to have employees. They don't want safe drivers. They just want your money. And here's the thing that pissed me off. I did not realize that they deleted this man's account and his history. That, to me, seems like a cover-up, and that's what we're going to be that's probably why you clicked on this video, because when I realized that, my title was originally going to be like, mom blames Uber and son's death, but now it's going to be like, Uber erases passenger's data after he dies in car accident. That's something along that lines. That's what the title's going to be. That is offensive. That, I think, shows more than ever Uber is not interested in safety, and they will do what they have to protect their assets, so to speak. To protect their assets. This is disgusting. This is absolutely offensive. This is... I am pissed. I am pissed. And you know what was really funny about this? Like right now I'm looking at this and right now I have like 25 minutes left of footage because I recorded a bunch of other videos. I did this one last because out of the 12 or 14 stories that I recorded today, which again will be sprinkled throughout the week. You might get 3 videos every day for the next few days. This one seemed like, well, it's just going to be like a little opinion, but this enraged me. This enraged me that Uber is going so far out of the way to prevent mandatory safety training, that they don't want to spend money on your safety, on the drivers or the riders, that they will delete information because they don't want to get caught. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I am so livid about this right now. I mean, I'm trying to put like a more lighter tone on this channel. You might be seeing that I'm not as, doom and gloom most of the time, but this, Nicholas, I am sorry. I am so sorry that this happened to you. And I'm so sorry to your family. And I'm sorry to the driver who was not trained to avoid something so simple from happening. So senseless. You know what? We're going to have to end it there. I'm running out of footage, and I don't know how much more times I could say that these evil bastards are just out of control. I don't know how else to say. So anyway, swearing, demonetization. I know it's coming. So anyway, let's just end this. Let's try to put this on a more positive ending note. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, but as little as $1 a day goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. And you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog, which, by the way, I'm going to be sharing stories about the wedding planning and, stuff like that and other things. So, fun. And as always, flame responsibly and get on these greedy bastards' case to do something about safety. For God's sake.